mobility, SOPs for electric ambulances, police vehicles, and additional incentives for buyers scrapping their old vehicles also on the cards. Drip Capital, a digital platform for trade finance, has secured $113 million in new funding. This includes $23 million in equity from Japanese institutional investors, GMO Payment Gateway and Sumitomo Mitsui Banking Corporation, and $90 million in debt from IFC and East West Bank. The new funding will support its market expansion and development of new products. Indian startups have raised over $1 billion in the month of August, making it the second highest funding amount of 2024, following June, and the third highest in the past 12 months, while Rapido turned unicorn with $200 million funding. Zepto's valuation surged to $5 billion with $340 million round. Indian startups have raised almost $7 billion so far in 2024, as per venture intelligence data. Nicola Mendelsohn, the head of ad business at Meta, told CNBC TV18 that it may be too early to start asking for return on investment on AI spends by tech companies. Meta has been updating its ad buying products with AI tools to boost earnings growth. The firm had said earlier it expected to spend between $35 billion and $40 billion in 2024. That's an exclusive. Nykaa has roped in Good Glam Group's former executive Suklina Neja as Senior Vice President and Business Head for K-Beauty, its celebrity beauty brand in partnership with Katrina Kaif. Neja will be responsible for propelling K-Beauty's growth in international markets. Britain's antitrust regulator said it had provisionally found that Google had abused its dominant position in digital advertising to restrict competition. The Competition and Markets Authority said it believed Google was using anti-competitive practices in open display ad tech, which could be harming thousands of British publishers and advertisers. Those were the headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. But on what's brewing today, tech platform Credo has raised $4 million in a Series A funding round co-led by Singapore-based Heritas Capital and existing investor UBS Optimus Foundation. The round also saw participation from other existing investors such as Grey Matters Capital, One Crowd, the Chennai Angels, the Joka Angel Network, and others. Joining us now to discuss this further is Mridula Sridhar, the co-founder of Credo. Mridula, thank you so much for taking time out and being here with us on Startup Street. You know, essentially, just to explain a little bit, Credo partners with schools and preschools, and you aim to transform the way learning is delivered, especially in the early years, right? So if you could explain to us how exactly you're doing this, take us through your 6T learning framework.
Sure. Thank you for having me here. And yes, we partner with schools, largely preschools, as well as budget private schools, or what we call affordable private schools, to transform the way they deliver early learning. We've been in the space for a while, and we have a solution called 6T, the centerpiece of which is toys. So 6T essentially, has expanded for you, is toys, timetable, technology, theory, teamwork, which is peer learning, and most importantly, of course, teacher training. So we adapt all these schools to a play-based learning model, and we have managed to institutionalize play-based learning in all these schools to increase the level of learning outcomes, especially in the areas of foundational literacy and foundational numeracy. And at the centerpiece of this is the toys, which is our Credo lab. And we have all these other elements which sort of enhance the learning experience for the school.
So toys at the center of the learning experience for the younger children. But you know, you've raised the money that you've raised, which is $4 million, to primarily launch new offerings, among other things, right? But if you could take us through what's in the pipeline for Credo in terms of these new offerings.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're working in the space of 3 to 8, the age group of 3 to 8, which is pre-nursery, nursery, LKG, UKG in grade 1 and 2. With this round of funding, we hope to expand our reach upwards. We are going to be introducing our class 3 to class 5 curriculum, bringing more children into the fold. We're currently in about 9 cities, partnering with about 1,600 schools. We already have about 1.5 lakh children on learning on the Credo platform. But with this round of funding, we will be taking it in the next year to about 2,700 children and more than 2.7 lakh children and more than 2,700 schools with maybe 3 or 4 more cities in the pipeline. So increasing the geography as well as going upwards with the product reach.
Right. So lots of expansion plans there. But, you claim to have doubled down on your revenues in the last 2 years, right? So if you could take us through where you're at currently and what about profitability?
So yeah, this year, as I mentioned, we are partnering with about 1,700 schools. We just closed our annual year at roughly close to 50 crore revenue. We have invested heavily into the business right now. So yes, we are marginally EBITDA negative in this year, but we will be profitable in the following year where we hope to take our revenue to close to 100 crore, a little less than that.
So profitability in the next year is what you're working with right now. But, like you just said, you work with kids between the ages of 3 and 8, right? So if you could, you've also mentioned the number of schools you work with. And tell us how your model is helping these schools significantly improve learning outcomes. If you could, sort of give us a use case.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been supplying materials to schools for a few years, and we are, core believers of the Montessori way of learning, and Credo sort of modeled itself around that. But what we have understood is just giving them toys or putting materials in the school is not sufficient to make a learning change, especially in budget private schools where the teachers are right now, they're fairly semi-skilled. There is a severe shortage of skilled teachers in the country, especially post-COVID. One of the things that schools really desperately need is for players like us to come in and help them through the entire transformation process. So we put this lab into school, we train the teachers, we also monitor and audit the teachers. We do a lot of parent engagement as well to bring in the awareness. So we bring in all the stakeholders. It's not just about putting a set of toys over there. We make sure that play becomes institutionalized as a part of the child's daily life. Otherwise, it's just an extracurricular activity sometimes where there are some toys and occasionally, children are allowed to play. For us, it's not like that. It becomes a part of their daily timetable.
Right.
And the toys are used every day. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you were talking about your expansion plans. If you could tell us the cities that you're currently present in and which are the cities you're looking to add. Also, what's the focus on schools beyond tier 1 cities? What's the demand you're sort of seeing over there for this kind of learning?
Yeah. So presently we're in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune. We've just introduced Chennai and Delhi last year. We're also in Sangli, Kolhapur, Belgaum, a lot of tier 3, tier 4 cities in and around that belt. We did both test cases. We did metro cities as well as tier 3 and 4. The demand is uniform. The demand is everywhere. 70% of urban India goes to affordable private schools. These are schools that charge less than roughly 30,000 in a metro, which is practically a parent's 1 month or 2 months salary. These are first generation learners. And the demand for good quality learning is massive, whether it's metro or a tier 3, 4. And yes, next year we have already started our expansion into zones like Mysore, Hubli. We are doing Coimbatore and a lot of tier 3, tier 4. For us, there is no dearth of demand across any city.
Absolutely. So big focus there on the south, as I can see. But Mridula, we're completely out of time. Thank you so much for joining us on Startup Street, and we wish you all the best on this journey going forward.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Moving on, since the inception of ONDC on December 2021, it has grown leaps and bounds. The network has seen close to 12 million transactions per month, and all of this in less than 18 months. Speaking at the sideline of the Global FinTech Fest, T. Koshi, the MD and CEO of ONDC, told Shilpa Ranipeta that in August alone, the transaction is expected to reach 12.5 million. Here's a slice of that conversation.
Mr. Koshi, thank you so much for speaking to CNBC TV. Always a pleasure. Before we get into some of the specifics, I want to first start off by asking you currently, with the kind of transactions that are happening through the ONDC network, can you give us a sense of what are the kind of transactions that are happening, a number to it, and what categories are currently leading with the highest share?
As you know that ONDC established in 2021 in December. And during 22, we are setting up the whole rails.
Yeah.
And 23 January, we started making the transactions available through few pin codes in Bangalore.
Correct.
And that's when, in that month, we had some 500 merchants collectively doing about 1,200 transactions the whole month. It's like piddly, just POC. From there, this month I'll reach about 12.5 million transactions.
Million transactions.
12.5 million transactions, from 1,200 to 12.5 million in, let's say, 18 months. And in the last month, probably would have heard that we also launched financial products. So what we just started, earlier started was grocery, food and mobility, and all of them has picked up really well in the last 1.5 years.
Right.
So of the total transaction, about 35% is mobility, which includes, we started with Bangalore, now it is there in 10 cities. We started with auto, now there are some cities auto, some cities cab, some cities both, and also metro. And then bus launched recently in one city. So we are seeing gradual build up, because anything of this, it will not happen overnight. It's not an abracadabra moment. Similarly, food is leading. After mobility, it's food, then it's grocery, then it's fashion, and then all this beauty, personal care all together. So mobility 35%, remaining of the remaining 60% will come from these three early ones, and the remaining are happening. Very interesting thing that is there is also we made a, finance just started only, very, very small. And is that recently we launched something, logistics as a service.
Credit is the latest product that is going to be available through the network. Can you quickly tell us the 6-minute paper loan, how that is going to work through the network?
See what does the network help? Network has, it's not a platform, it's a network.
Yeah, it's a network.
So forget credit, so there are some applications which interact with the consumers. When it comes to credit, consumers are borrowers. And these entities will let the consumer or the borrower come and express their wish and their credential into this application. And that get broadcast to a whole host of loan providers. Normally the consumer will, if I want to take a loan, I'll come to you, I'll come to her, I'll come to him. Multiple service providers, individually, it's all time consuming. Each of you may have a different requirement of KYC, different requirement of paper and all of them. But here I'm saying that these are all very standardized. It gets broadcast. Each of them will be able to pull down the relevant information from account aggregator and CBIL, etc. with my consent, which is the requirement of the law, all digitally, and suck in and process based on their model, which is model of credit worthiness evaluation, and we'll say okay, it's available. So the beauty is I can go to the most comfortable application to express my need for a loan. It get broadcast without me going 10 places, get broadcast to 10 places, and tomorrow it might be even more. I get 10 offers or 5 offers. I choose. Everything happened digitally.
Correct.
That's why it happens in 6 minutes time.
Correct.
And probably in future there are certain kind of loan there might be more documentation required.
Correct.
But what we're trying to do is to make this interfaces and communication using standard protocol and using standard digital rail.
Amazon Pay hits a milestone as it crossed 100 million users since its launch. My colleague Shilpa also caught up with its CEO Vikas Bansal, who said that over 75% of their users come from Tier 2 and 3 cities. Also added that capturing market share and competition are secondary outcomes for Amazon Pay. Take a look.
I want to first start off by talking about the milestone you recently hit in terms of 100 million users on Amazon Pay. Can you quickly run us through the kind of transactions that users were doing, these 100 million users are doing, and what are the major use cases also that people are using on Amazon Pay?
Great. First of all, Amazon Pay, our purpose is to build the most trusted, convenient and rewarding way to pay, and we are on this journey. And so as you mentioned, we are humble with the progress. We recently hit the 100 million users for Amazon Pay UPI, and it really shows the trust that the customer has with us, and they are with us for the long run. And in terms of some of the key things here is, one, that's more than 75% of the users are coming from Tier 2, 3 cities of India. Secondly, in terms of the use cases, what we feel really good about is when the key use case is about merchant payments. So when the customers are using this UPI to pay in stores, in offline, as well as in online, that's where we get very excited about.
Do the transactions that happen on your Amazon app, is the largest amount of traction coming from there, and versus how much of it is coming from other apps?
Yeah.
And how are you sort of looking at this mix going forward?
Yeah. See, look, we as a payment company, we work with all large set of merchants. We have more than 10,000 online merchants and many offline merchants as well. And then today, the adoption on Amazon, the marketplace, is a smaller percentage than when it is for other transactions, whether it is on customers paying bills, or whether they're doing ticketing, whether they're paying online or they're paying offline. So this constitutes much larger percentage
Right.
of our overall transactions, and that's what we want to be, because we want to be able to serve large millions and millions of merchants, and we are kind of in that direction. So our stated ambition is that that part will be a much, much larger part of our business going forward.
The UPI landscape currently is also quite competitive, and you have other platforms that have garnered quite a lot of market share currently when it comes to being a UPI app or UPI payments, right? So how are you viewing the competitive landscape, and do you have any ambitions in terms of the kind of market share you're looking at in the UPI space?
Yeah. So first of all, the opportunity is still very large. While we have made some great strides in UPI, when we still look at benchmark ourselves to the digital payment adoption to what it can be, there's still tremendous opportunity for everyone. That's number one, right? The number two is that we don't look at and work backwards from market share or competition, and I don't obsess over competition, I obsess over customers, and I say, can I solve some problems? Can I bring solutions which are differentiated, differentiated in the experience, differentiated in the efficiencies and cost and other things, and bring those to customers and merchants. And when we do that, naturally we see adoption, and to have a little bit slightly long-term view. So that's what we do, and look, that's what we are going to focus on, and look at the opportunity, go after it, and then the share and all these things are secondary outcomes for us.
Are you seeing a need or feedback for that? Because a lot of the other apps, they're standalone payment UPI apps, whereas you're integrated into a larger marketplace.
See, there's always pros and cons with our strategy, what we have pursued, and we've done it deliberately for a reason, and we continue to hear customer feedback and adjust our plans accordingly. So that's how what I would say.
So 100 million users you've already hit. When can we expect the next big leg of growth? I mean, do you have another set target, or where do you see the next big leg of growth for you coming from? Also?
No, again, our core thesis is about just making, not just making customer payments trusted, convenient, and rewarding. We're on that journey.
Okay.
And we will continue to be on the journey, and we will celebrate the milestones along the way. I'm not chasing the next big thing. I'm chasing how to solve real problems for our country.
On that note, it is time for us to head into a short break. But coming up next, Nicole Mendelsohn, the head of ad business at Meta, told CNBC TV18 that it may be too early to start asking for return on investment on AI spends by tech companies. That exclusive conversation when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still with us on Startup Street. Lauding the role of RBI on cracking the whip on unsecured loans, Ramki Gadapati, the co-founder and CTO of Zeta, said fintech companies understand the need for measured growth in credit and have been shaping their plans in line with regulatory policies. Meanwhile, Bhavin Turakia, the co-founder and CEO of Zeta, added that credit transactions through UPI is expected to grow exponentially in the next 5 to 7 years. The duo was speaking to my colleague Rachna Dhanrajani on the sidelines of the Global FinTech Fest. Here's a slice of that conversation.
I'd like to start by asking, you recently had a partnership with HDFC Bank for credit on UPI. How big is the opportunity that you're seeing in providing credit on UPI, and what's this partnership all about?
Sure, yeah. I think we're extremely excited about the possibilities of credit line on UPI. I think UPI is a protocol. Today, if you look at debit transactions, UPI sort of does about 8 to 9 times the volume of transactions compared to debit cards on the debit side of the house, which is where it's funding sources for the savings accounts. We very strongly believe that with launch of credit line on UPI over the next 5 to 7 years, total transactional credit on UPI is going to be a significant multiple of general overall credit card transactions today. And that's because UPI makes it easier for people to discover access to credit. Because of PSP apps and proliferation of PSP apps, there's almost sort of a natural marketplace where at point of sale, contextually individuals can apply for, obtain and use credit right away, which has never been possible before. And so given the kind of degree of under-penetration of credit in the Indian market, there is a significant opportunity to bridge this gap, to make credit accessible to entire population sort of a far more easier manner. I'll let Ramki comment a little bit on the HDFC deal and his thoughts on the same also.
Yeah, we believe, as Bhavin was saying, we believe that, credit on UPI by 2030 is going to be a $1 trillion opportunity.
But this is also at a time when things are getting very aggressive in the market when it comes to unsecured loans. At a time like this, RBI is also coming in strong. So how do you sort of tread that path while staying within the regulator's guidelines and not...
No, that's an extremely pertinent question right now. I think the way I just look at it is that it's extremely important for economy to grow, and credit is the fuel for that. But at the same time, one need to understand how to grow the credit, right? While it is important to grow, how to do it is as important as what to do, right? So what we have seen is a euphoria. Everybody realized the opportunity, but there is a euphoria of actually lending that we have seen.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly in the interest of economy. It might actually encourage poor credit habit, which is unaffordable for a nation like us, right? If we are just actually going to have a defaulting economy, a defaulting population routinely, it would become like Brazil, where credit costs become 70% of the actual principal. So that is unaffordable. You need to make, I think RBI is taking really good steps to make sure that it's a moderated growth than an unbridled growth that you would be seeing. It is something that actually meets the needs of the economy than actually prematurely boosts the economy to something that we can't actually support, right? So I think this is a careful calculation, careful growth that RBI is navigating. As far as I see my fintech peers, all of them are able to realize that, hey, this is always a measured growth that we need to take for credit. And they're also shaping their plans in line with what moderation that RBI is putting. I think it will all come to a good harmony. Right now, yes, whatever be the tiny disturbances or spikes that you see of one way or the other, it's growing pains, I would say. We will all grow, we'll grow happily, healthily. We need to take notice of what moderation RBI is trying to do.
Moving on, Nicola Mendelsohn, the head of ad business at Meta, told CNBC TV18 that it may be too early to start asking for return on investment on AI spends by tech companies. She also added that Meta has been updating its ad buying products with AI tools to boost earnings growth. Take a look.
Let's begin with the characterization of the business per se. You mentioned that, yes, Meta at the heart of it is a tech company, and that's how most of us look at Meta. But you also said that it is also the business of Meta is the business of advertising. And that you said when you were making that leap from advertising to Meta. Give us a sense. Is it a tech company? Is it an advertisement company?
First off, it's absolutely fantastic to be here with you today, and I'm thrilled to be back in this amazing country. I love coming here. Meta is a tech company. It's got tech and innovation right at the very heart, and it has since the very first day it opened 20 years ago. But it is true that the financial aspect of our business is actually coming from advertising. But tech is actually what we are at the heart.
You mentioned the question, however, as far as the return on investment on AI is concerned. That's one question that Wall Street, that the markets across the world are beginning to ask the companies in terms of the investments being made and as how far it's actually contributing to the top line. Is that a question that you find yourself answering to investors?
Yeah, so look, I think it's still too early to say across the board in terms of that, but sharing some of those results in terms of what it's actually doing for the performance of our advertisers that are utilizing our platforms, I think is really exciting. Another exciting area is around generative AI. And we launched in the last year a whole series of generative AI creative products. What does this mean? And this means that an advertiser can go on now, maybe has taken one shot of, let's say it's a bottle, and they might have it as a square ratio. Well, that's not going to work for a reel, or that's not going to work for some of our other formats. But again, now it does, because we can actually stretch the ratios to work. That's one use. Another use case is now that, again, through the generative AI, you can come up with different copy, different headlines, different translations. And the headline here is that for every rupee that's being invested in Meta platforms, on average, we're seeing back 1 rupee 76 back. So this is really strong in terms of the incremental revenue that it's delivering. So I saw the CEO of Flipkart this week and sharing that they're seeing a 3.6 return on revenue as a result of using these advantage products. So
it is Friday, and it's time to take a look at all the big deals from the startup ecosystem. According to Venture Intelligence, this week saw a total of 18 deals valued at $186 million. Let's start with some of the notable ones, which include ride-sharing platform Rapido, which raised $80 million in a financing round led by Westbridge Capital, Nexus Venture Partners, and others. Meanwhile, specialty coffee chain Blue Tokai bagged $35 million. That's not all. Cross-border SME trade financier Drip Capital secured $23 million in equity from GMO Venture Partners and SMBC Asia Rising Fund. Meanwhile, farm inputs aggregator Agrim landed $17.3 million from Axion International, India Quotient, and others. Also, energy storage solutions provider Clean Electric attracted $6 million from Pi Ventures, InfoEdge, and others. This year has seen a total of 554 deals with $6.8 billion, according to Venture Intelligence. And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Stay tuned, don't go anywhere.